This is Tanishka. You might know me as the Moon Woman. I just thought I'd share with you my thoughts on the approaching full moon. So that's happening on the 23rd for those of us that are on the front line of the date line. For the others, it's happening on the 22nd of November. So yeah, look, Gemini, it's one of the younger signs. It's an air sign, so it's very much a mental sign, a mercurial sign. In fact, it's ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication. So this is a week when you can expect Facebook and, you know, all the social media networks to just be full tilt. Everyone's going to be multitasking, several tabs open, messages coming in left, right, and center. You know, this is a time when the energy can be scattered, and we can end up very, very grounded if we're not ungrounded if we're not careful, because we're across so many things and dealing with things on a mental level, which can feel very exciting, which is great, but we also do need to ground. So how do we ground? Well, walking barefoot, eating protein, getting enough sleep, yeah, just making sure that you even put your roots down every morning energetically from the base of your spine to the center of the earth. I've got a guided meditation on how to do that on my website, themoonwoman.com, if you're interested. So let's get into it. This full moon is going to be at 0 degrees Gemini. Dun, 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 dun. So 0 degrees is, like it suggests, ground zero, total wipeout, new beginning. So the key here is communication. So if we are connecting with our higher mind, so if we're journaling, if we're meditating, if we're reflecting, creating a dialogue between the higher mind and the 10% rational mind, this is a time when we can really have a very exciting new chapter open for us. Okay, this is an optimal time this week to be launching things if you're, you know, in digital media, if you're and well, who isn't these days in terms of online, but because we've just come out of the Venus transit, it's kind of like and Mercury has now just gone retrograde on the day that Venus finished her transit. So you know, it's a time of great change. Okay. Now, what I think is the most significant thing for this new moon is that it is going to be at the exact same degree in the Pleiades, okay, which is the Seven Sisters star system. Okay, for those of you that have read my book, The Inner Goddess Makeover, and are working with the 7 goddess archetypes, this is their constellation. But Alcyone is the brightest star in the Pleiades, in the Seven Sisters constellation. And this full moon is going to be at the same degree as Alcyone. So what does that mean? Well, my take on it is this. Alcyone is the great central sun, prophesied by the Incans, by the Mayans, as our return home to the light. Yeah, there's a prophecy called the Children of the Sun, and it said that, you know, we would come together at this time and we would dance, and you can see a lot of, you know, ecstatic dance practices. It's like celebration is the new religion, you know, it's experiential. So if you've got the opportunity to go to an ecstatic dance, to go to a shamanic dance practice this full moon, go. This is an ideal time to align with Alcyone. And again, the tree meditation, something that I offer on my website as a guided meditation, connects you with Alcyone, the great central sun. So this is a really good time to do that meditation. So coming home to being one with the unity consciousness of light is very much the theme of this full moon. But what we're seeing online is people sort of giving the sort of foreboding, oh, Mars is going to be square this full moon. It's a time of rage and anger and conflict. Well, I find it significant that Gemini is the sign of duality, which is the sign of this new full moon. So we have a choice. You know, it's like, which wolf do you feed? We can attune to Alcyone and to the energy of the Pleiadians, which is the star system that Alcyone is in. And the Pleiadians, you know, they're one of the benevolent star systems that have consciousness far beyond our own group mind, who are, you know, midwifing us through our ascension process back into the light of consciousness with absolute love. So we can attune to the support that is being offered to us from, you know, the Pleiades, from the great central sun, through ecstatic practices, through meditation. And if we don't, chances are we're going to be quite reactive this full moon, because we have Mars forming a challenging aspect, a 90-degree aspect to this full moon. So that means that we're more likely to feel, you know, quick to anger if we feel like our needs aren't being met. Kind of like a kid throwing a tantrum. But Mars is in the sign of Pisces. So whilst, you know, normally Mars would explode, okay, when Mars is in Pisces, we're more likely to implode, okay, do the silent treatment, do the martyrdom. So just a bit of a warning, yeah, that, you know, we may be triggered this week as we approach this full moon, particularly on and around the 22nd, the 23rd of November, and that our challenge, okay, our really big challenge is to not go into story, okay, because Shadow Gemini is when we have a young mind. In other words, the rational mind is running us. We are not viewing the rational mind from the higher mind, from the witness, from the heart's wisdom, from the intuition. And so when the lower mind is running us, we are unconsciously seeking proof that our old stories of victimhood are true. Okay, so if something happens and it's, you know, triggering for us, it brings up fears of what happened in our past, we can react based on what happened in the past, being scareful, we're scared it could happen again, and create drama for ourselves. So how do we avoid, you know, conflict and tension this full moon? By staying curious, which is one of the strengths of Gemini. And, you know, if you notice in a conversation that you feel triggered, just observe it and say to yourself, well, why is that? Yeah, stay curious, investigate it. Why has that got such a charge for me emotionally? You know, and that way, if we bring in the questioning mind, we're not going to descend down into our lower emotions and be so combative, okay? Because most conflict and tension is caused by that inner child being fearful that its needs aren't going to be met. You know, it's the what about me? So, you know, this is an opportunity for us to parent ourselves, but with clear thinking, okay, with questioning ourselves. So, and look, if you do explode or implode and have a conflict with somebody, go away and do those self-inquiry questions, and then come back with humility about, you know, what your part in the dance was. And you might like to do the tree meditation, I would suggest. Oh, there's a hornet, lovely. To connect in with that benevolent, loving energy of the Pleiades, and ask for that energy to bathe you so that you're able to move with grace, move with love, and resolve potential conflicts and discord. So the key this full moon is communication. So be direct as possible in your communication. Another sort of shadow with the Mars in Pisces square to this full moon can be that we don't directly ask for our needs to be met. So this can be passive-aggressive behavior where we expect others to intuit our needs rather than the onus being on us to be assertive, not aggressive, but simply to say, I'm feeling this, I need this, are you able to help? Yeah. And it can be very challenging for us to ask for help. We can experience shame if we need help, particularly if we've grown up, you know, feeling that the worst thing in the world would be to be dependent on someone. If we associate that with powerlessness, I know that's been true of me, and I had an experience yesterday where I noticed that come up in me, and it was like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm comfortable being independent. I'm not comfortable being dependent. So, you know, everything that happens is grist for the mill. It's all part of the shamanic process. So rather than, you know, going into shame, it's like, no, this is an opportunity for an epiphany, for healing. So, as I mentioned before, Venus is now direct after her 40 days retrograde period, and she is in Libra. So that is actually going to help us as well. So if you see, you know, posts online that are saying this full moon's going to be, you know, very aggressive and angry and full of arguments, just remember we've got Venus, the sign of love, moving forwards in Libra, which is the sign of cooperation, the sign of peace, the sign of balance, the sign of partnerships. So we do have a lot of support to help us to choose love rather than fear and go into conflict this full moon. So keep the perspective of, you know, positive with Gemini, which is the person who acknowledges we go equally in the light and the dark, and equally the light and the dark are our teachers. So this is about us learning to dance with our duality by observing both, not polarizing, but acknowledging both to then help us stay the course of that middle path, whether you know it as the golden mean or Sushumna. This is about us being centered in the fact that nobody is all good or all bad, including us. So as soon as the 10% rational mind starts running a story about how bad someone else is, that's a bit of a flag that we've gone into story, okay? That we are not centered in seeing our own light and dark equally. We're polarizing, seeing someone else is all bad so we can feel like we are all good, which is not helpful, okay? That is a recipe for conflict. So we're being asked to really look at where our mind is immature, okay? This is when, if people are in shadow Gemini, they can be gossiping about others rather than bringing the focus back to, well, what is my lesson, okay? You know, if we're judging others, it's often to get away from our own self-inner critic. So if you hear or notice yourself being critical of others, just do a bit of journal writing this week and sort of check in as to, okay, am I sitting on some self-criticism that I'm disassociating from, I'm not wanting to acknowledge? Those who have a lot of planets in the third house, which is ruled by Gemini, will find that this is a very exciting time because Gemini loves multiplicity. In fact, is really good at multitasking. So this is going to be, you know, a week when we're across many, many tasks at once. And if you've got a lot of planets in the third house ruled by Gemini, or a lot of planets in Gemini in your chart, then, you know, you're going to feel like you're really stimulated this week and you get a lot done. So, yeah, the other thing I'd like to just mention is this is a good time to really just do a bit of a mental health check. You know, we have a stigma with mental health in our society where it's okay to get physically ill, but we see or associate mental health with, you know, somebody that is mentally ill for life. You know, once you're mentally ill, that's it. You know, you're labelled as somebody who is in some way not functional. And the fact of the matter is we all experience mental ill health. just as we experience emotional ill health when we're really out of balance, or physical ill health when we're physically out of balance. So, you know, it's about us being conscious of whether our mind is being given what it needs to be healthy and in balance. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're somebody who seeks stimulation, chances are you will tend to go into overwound, you know, status quo mentally. In other words, you get off on a challenge. So you get off on doing lots and lots of things, and this can lead us to being overwhelmed and, you know, I never have enough time, and feeling stressed out. Okay, so that is a mental imbalance. That's mental ill health if you're running on that anxiety. Okay, so what do you need to do to unwind? Well, you need to do something physical to get you out of your head and into your body, whether that's go have a massage, go have a dance, self-pleasure, go and have a walk, do some exercise, go to the gym. But, you know, get the energy. A foot massage is ideal, down into the bottom half of the body so that you're not just spinning like a top. The other extreme would be somebody who has no stimulation, yeah, just does the same old mundane routine, and so they become very staid and very, you know, bored, and boredom leads to frustration, and if that isn't expressed as anger, that can become depression. Okay, it can become resentment towards others and just an apathetic sort of heaviness where we haven't got any inspiration to really do anything with ourselves. And that's another form of mental ill health. It's a form of depression that is inertia. So, you know, if you haven't had enough mental stimulus, go to your local library, have a browse around and see what stimulates you, or check out different documentaries that are going to be stimulating for you. I know I personally find channeled books really stimulating. So, you know, if it's been a while since you felt mentally stimulated and you're feeling a bit meh, then, you know, feed your mind with new ideas. Watch some TED Talks, you know, so, or go and see a speaker live. And likewise, you know, if you're somebody that only ever reads for work, then let yourself read a novel or read some poetry, something that will help your mind to unwind. Because if we're not doing those things, what is more common in the West is people will knock off work and, you know, get shit-faced with trying to unwind with lots of alcohol. And with Mars in Pisces, that is certainly a possibility. So, you know, Pisces is the sign of the fish, so we can drink like a fish. And, you know, people that don't express their frustration or their anger directly in a healthy way, such as getting in touch with their warrior on the dance floor, or, you know, going in for a run, you know, with music that's just hard and fast, dance music, for instance. You know, if they're not doing that, then they can chug down alcohol and vomit up all their unexpressed anger. When people speak about going out raging on a Friday night, they're really hitting the mark, because a lot of people, it's just, you know, a way of getting out all their anger and frustration from the week using alcohol and abusing it by binge drinking, and then getting those intense emotions out through purging. So not particularly enjoyable and dangerous, because often they take that onto the road. So yeah, do be extra careful on the roads around this full moon, with that Mars forming a square in Pisces to this full moon. So yeah, look, we're also heading into the polarities of the winter solstice for those in the northern hemisphere and the summer solstice for those of us in the southern hemisphere. So this is another reason to really look at our dualistic nature and find that middle path. So for those of you in the northern hemisphere, I'm loving all the love bubbles that people are doing live. Thank you. And yeah, Lisa, I'll put the link up for that meditation, love. She's just asking about the tree meditation that I referred to earlier. So for those in the northern hemisphere, this is, you're now between, you've just passed through the seasonal vortex of Halloween, or Samhain as it was called originally. So this is now heading into the darkest and deepest of winter as you head towards the winter solstice. So for your mental health, again, this is really important that you access the medicine of fire, okay? Fire, by gazing into a fire, by lighting candles. Obviously, you know, don't have them near billowing candles, and make sure you curtains and blow them out before you leave the house or go to sleep. But the point, because you don't want to be in a ground zero situation with the house burning down this full moon. But fire, when we look upon the raw element of fire, it helps us to maintain hope in the darkness, to maintain that spark of the divine, being connected to the light when we're heading into the darkest of days, which is the winter solstice, known as Yule originally, which is what you're coming up to on, you know, the window of the 21st to the 23rd of December. So as you approach that date, the days are going to get darker and longer. You're going to be more confronted with the dark side of yourself, of others, so darker thoughts, darker feelings surfacing, feelings of betrayal, feeling overwhelmed by the global shadow. So come together in community, come together in circles, sit around a fire, have a vigil of candles at night to help lift your spirits, and channel your creativity as much as possible. For those of you in the southern hemisphere, as we are now passed through Beltane and we're heading into the summer solstice, this is a time of us approaching the longest day, the day that is the most light-filled. So this is a time to share the bounty that we've accrued through our labors, through our efforts over the last, you know, 6-7 months with our journey and our resurrection out of the dark months. So this is a time to catch up with friends, to celebrate the good times, to celebrate the lessons learned during those darker months, and to share the harvest. So it's the time of the king and queen, and a beautiful time, a time of festivals, a time of picnics, of being able to get out in nature. The days are longer so you can fit more in. We've got more energy, so make the most of it. You know, go berry picking and, yeah, just swim, be in nature, and have good times with your friends. So that's pretty much it. It's going to be a big week. So go gently, remember to ground, and yeah, I'll post the link up for that tree meditation to help you to stay grounded, and also to connect with Alcyone, which is going to be, you know, pretty much conjunct this full moon. So yeah, an exciting full moon. All right, blessings on your week, and thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I'll be posting the Astro Oracle for you to read tomorrow. All right, blessings. Ciao.